And for those of you from California, thank you for being awake. Okay. So my disclosures are I tend to write a lot of textbooks, mostly with the Weisses. And actually, this company wants us to write another edition, which I really don't want to do. So if anyone here, especially the young people, want to help Bob and I write this textbook, that would be great. So we've all heard about selective photothermolysis. And when we developed the intense pulse light, everyone was like, you can't do this because it doesn't have anything to do with selective photothermolysis. But what we've just seen, not only can the pulse dye laser, which was the key in development of selective photothermolysis, but KTP lasers, as well as 1064, and what I'm going to show is also the IPL can. So when you look at photothermal treatments of vascular lesions, as we're going to see, there is an amazing amount of different lasers. Now, the one that you see in the top, argon, was back in the olden days in 1986 when I first started using lasers, is what we had, and it really didn't do selective photothermolysis. And one of the problems that we see with some of the other more, the other lasers like pulse KTP, and ND-YAG is you've got to be really expert in moving the pulse around in order to have selective photothermolysis. So it's now been almost 30 years or over 30 years since we developed the IPL, and there's lots of devices that have come and gone. And it's, as Bob Weiss said yesterday, it's probably the single most popular device in the world. So how does the IPL work? Well, it is selective photothermolysis because basically we're selecting a variety of wavelengths because there's not just like one wavelength that's going to hit everything. It's actually a broad spectrum. That was the first thing that no one could believe. It's photothermolysis because just like any kind of light, it's converted to heat, and the heat basically coagulates the target. So IPLs do prescribe selective photothermolysis. And when you look at the comparison between what a laser, which is a single pinpoint of light or wavelength of light, to an IPL, you can see again that they're quite similar in ascribing to the concept of selective thermolysis. So why did we develop the IPL? Well, we developed it because when we started using the pulse dye laser in the early days, we had significant problems. One was purpura. No matter what settings we were doing. Now, of course, it was an older pulse dye laser with a 0.5 millisecond pulse duration. Patients would get purpura that would last for weeks. They also got hypopigmentation in spots because initially we had a 5 millimeter spot size, and then they would get post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. If you look really carefully at maybe the lights are too high, this woman came and was treated with pulse dye laser and has all these little white circles on her. And so after the IPL, we basically eliminated the little circles, which was very, very common because, again, some of the pulse dye lasers have more of a Gaussian distribution than a flat top distribution. So this was the very first study that was published on the IPL. Now, the reason that we did the initial work on leg veins is because that's where the venture capital firm wanted us to do it. So the story is this guy named Shimon Eckhouse, the other way, Bob. Shimon Eckhouse came to me and said he wants to develop this flash lamp, and I'll tell you the story a little bit more in the next few slides. And then we figured out one of my patients actually had a lot of money and wanted to invest in an Israeli company and said, but we want to treat leg veins, and that's why we ended up treating leg veins. So we found that basically in these 8 centers, we could actually treat leg veins. The problem was we did get some purpura and transient pigmentation problems with a few burns. But what we really found, so right now, the way we use it for leg veins, if we ever use it, is in treating things like essential telangiectasia. But this was the key part of this study. When we treated this lady's telangiectasias, which you can see here, we noticed that not only did the telangiectasia go away, but this sort of lighter area is actually the smoothing of the skin, which causes the bouncing of the light. Because again, back in the olden days, we used 25 Ektachrome film, so we actually did not have digital things back in the 80s. And so these were perfectly taken pictures. Now, the reason we no longer use IPLs, or any laser for that matter, for the treatment of leg veins is because leg veins are not venous lakes. They're not like spider telangiectasias. They're part of a venous system. And so here's your venous system. So when you look at a reticular vein, it can be really close to the skin or very far under the skin, and it has a large footprint. And so you can't really treat leg veins effectively with any laser modality. So we developed it to treat leg veins. We noticed it basically treated lentigos. It also decreased hair and smoothed the skin. And this is the history. So in April of '92, we came up on literally a napkin in a bar designing the IPL. We then did the first rabbit ear studies right before a Dallas Cowboy Chargers game in an animal lab in San Diego. And then we started talking about it. And at the controversies meeting in 1995 in Bermuda, when I was presenting this, Rox Anderson got up, and we all know Rox is one of the greatest guys in the world, and he said, it was the worst device ever invented. I was going to kill people. It was going to blow up. So that didn't make me feel very good, but eventually we got people to believe that the IPL worked, primarily through the incredible work of Robert and Margaret Weiss sitting right in front. And we finally presented it at the ASLMS in 2000, and we called it a photo rejuvenation machine, and that's what made it really take off. This was one of the very first patients we treated at Port Weinstein, and you can see that after multiple treatments with pulse dye laser, the Port Weinstein stayed, but as soon as we treated him with the IPL, it went away, but if you look carefully, half of his mustache went away as well. And so that became the first laser hair removal system. This was my back, which was the next patient treated. Dr. Richard Fitzpatrick liked torturing me, and so he treated me with, that's a biopsy site. But you can see if you look at my back now, it still looks pretty good. Michael Gold basically took it to the next level and did a huge rollout with multiple clinics all around the United States. Treating people with IPL for laser hair removal. There's many different kinds of IPLs. They all have different cutoff filters, pulse durations, fluences, etc. But what makes at least the luminous IPLs, what I think are the best, is something we came up with called multiple sequential pulsing. This allows us to deliver large amounts of energy with multiple pulses to become even more effective for treating systems. And if I can just go on for one more minute. And so if you look at the history and innovation, we've come a long way in developing the IPL with better handpieces, better types of filtering devices, better types of ways to deliver the energy. And then because I'm out of time, I won't go any further except you can see IPLs are pretty good for Port Weinsteins and even spider telangiectasias, because my patients do tend to come back even if I treat them. Thank you. Thank you very much for your attention. Great.